listening to 91 Reasons, a journey into the twisted landscape of pop culture. Keep your hands and arms inside the podcast at all times. And now, the voice, Jeff Tucker.
All right, welcome back. This is another episode of 91 Reasons. Oh my gosh, we just got back from Comic-Con 2014. We went Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and I have to tell you, Comic-Con kicked our butt. It was probably the longest feeling Comic-Con that we've ever been to. Our history with Comic-Con, if you listen to the last episode, we've been going for years and years. The kids have gone every year that they've been alive. So my oldest is 17. It's at least 17 in a row that we've gone. Even if he didn't go to those first couple early ones as an infant. Once he got of age, we went to all of them. So we went this year. We skipped preview night only because we didn't have a hotel room. That hotel room process is crazy. You know what? Before we even get to that, let's talk about the registration period for Comic-Con. I'm a professional because as an author with 3 books, I apply for professional status, and usually I have to prove somehow, so I just send them the book, and I get approved for professional status, which is great. And you know, when they open professional status to register and to print out your tickets, they allow you a guest. So it's you and a guest. And this is 2 years in a row that I have been on the computer hitting refresh 10, 20 minutes before the site is supposed to go live. And I've missed out on the guest pass 2 in a row. I've had to purchase them both times. That's crazy. Talk about... I'm trying to think. I think I was on the site registering about maybe a minute in. And in that minute, all of the free guest passes were taken. So Comic-Con is crazy now. I don't know exactly how it works for regular registration, but I did talk to somebody, and the reason that they told me that the con seemed busier this year, even though it's the same amount of tickets, maybe it isn't, I don't know, I'm not privy to their numbers, but he said that they had sold a lot more individual day tickets as opposed to 4-day tickets. Now, if you've got a 4-day ticket, by the time you hit Sunday, it's usually a pretty sleepy day at the con. Most people partied all night Saturday. You know, they had more than enough beer and alcohol, and they don't stumble into the convention floor for at least an hour or sometimes 2. You know, usually you have the floor alone till 11 or 11:30 on Sundays, and it simply wasn't like that this year. We got there right when it opened. We were able to park and walk all the way up there on Sunday, but by the time we got into the convention, it seemed like any other day. And he said the reason they did was they sold all those single day badges, and the difference between the 4-day and the single day is, again, by the time you get to the 4th day, the 5th day, if you've got a preview night, you're exhausted, so you need a little breather. But the people who had the Sunday badges and Sunday only, of which there were, oh my gosh, tens of thousands, they were treating it like day one. So they were full of gusto, and they were pushy, they were shovey, and we had trouble navigating the floor. So Sunday, usually quiet, fun, relaxing day, was anything but. But let's start with day one. That was the first day we went down was Thursday. We got there very early, at least an hour and a half, 2 hours before it opened. Got great parking. The last year, the parking lot that we were in was an MTV party zone, and this year it was back to being a parking lot. So it was very pricey, but we were quite close. Then walking in, getting badges, it took a while. And the difference this year that made it so much more difficult was that, oh my gosh, it was so hot. It must have been 110 in the sun. And when you're waiting for your badges, you go from direct sunlight to shade, until you get in. And we were spent before we even got in the building because the heat was so bad. We were not prepared for it. You know, there were people in full unitard, spandex, patent leather bodysuits, and the slave Leias were the only ones who had the right idea, right? But we got in, we got our badges, we registered. It was pretty easy. You know, the professional line usually goes very quickly. And we finally got in. And, you know, con was great. We tried to go into the Hasbro line. You know, that's the big line. But apparently, from what I was listening, there was a woman trying to take a cup of coffee up to the Hasbro line on the sale, and she said that her husband had been in line since 1 a.m. So that was a 9-hour line just to purchase the Hasbro items. 9 hours, 8-9 hours to have a chance at purchasing. So by the time we got into the floor, into the Hasbro line, it was already cut off. They were done for the day. I can say that from my experience, I never got into the Hasbro line any of the days. So I didn't have a chance at getting any of those exclusives. That was crazy. Now, I've had that experience before with Mattel and obviously with the highly sought after Lego exclusives, but I've never been denied the Hasbro line. Normally, if you wait around long enough, you get in, but I must have missed it every time because I didn't get in. But I did end up going to the Super 7 booth to get their Alien figure. Super 7 hit this amazing idea last year to dig up the old Alien figures from 1979 from Kenner and resculpt them to look just like those ones. They were never released because parents had an uproar over the 18-inch figure because it's terrifying. And why are we making toys for an R-rated movie anyways? I get all that. They didn't make the figures. So Super 7 made them last year, and they were a huge success. They sold out, I think, on preview night. Again, I never had a chance to even purchase the blue set of early bird prototypes and such. But they did get their figures to market, and they partnered with Funko, and they were able to drop the price in half and actually garner countless lines to bolster it. The reaction line has so many characters, it's going to take forever to track them all down. But I did manage to get there to get the Super 7 exclusive Alien figures, which come in a giant egg, and they're blind packed, which is weird. A $25 blind pack seems crazy. But eventually they were revealed to be clear black, clear gray, sparkly, and they even had a new sculpt of Ash fallen over on the tape. Not Ash. Is it Ash? Who gets the face hugger on his face? Ash is the robot. It's not Ash. It's John Hurt anyway, and he gets the face hugger on him, and it's a figure of him laying on the table with the little chest burster coming out. It's a great figure, and I think there were also some of the Nostromo spacesuits with different heads in them, so that you could have different characters. They were really clever anyway. And I was really surprised that they hadn't sold out, but thankfully Super 7 did their homework and were able to have enough product to meet demand, because most of the booths did not. Most of the booths were sold out, if not preview night, then quite early Thursday. And some of those just were crazy. The Funko booth, I walked up to the Funko booth, and I was surprised because they had plenty of product, and the booth wasn't crowded. There were a few people shopping, and I thought, wow, I'm incredibly lucky. And of course, I wasn't. Instead, I was told, sir, there's a line. And the line to get into the Funko booth to purchase their products was, I think it was about an hour. So we weren't going to wait. I wasn't going to wait. We just gotten there. And the last thing you want to do is get in the line first off, and who knows what you'll miss. So we just started hitting the floor and hitting as many booths as we can to see everything that we could. The Comic-Con floor is overwhelming. I've talked about it before in the other podcast, but the other episode. But it's just so big as to defy explanation. There was a couple of times we wanted to go from one aisle from the 5700 aisle all the way to 1900, and that it's like 3 city blocks. Like, it's just crazy. And factor in the enormous crowds, and you can't even move. You can't even get around. And ultimately that's what did us in on Sunday, because we just got to a point where we couldn't handle the crowds anymore. But on Thursday we were fresh. We were rocking and rolling. We hooked up with a lot of people that we'd met along the way. Some just friends that you have at the con, which is also strange because with so many people and it being so big and so spread out through the gas lamp and all the hotels, you'd be hard pressed to find anybody without a meetup. But I just have a knack for locating people, and we just saw people all the time, celebrities and such. Yeah, that's the other thing is there's so many celebrities just wandering around, just figuring that no one's going to recognize them. And I just like to, there's so-and-so, there's so-and-so. But it was great. Thursday was a lot of fun. It was exhausting. We were there from open to close and didn't get home till midnight. But we came home with so much stuff, so many freebies, and we got a quick night's sleep, and we got up at 6 a.m. the next morning, and we're back on the road. Again, no hotel room, so we're hoofing it back and forth from Riverside. It's about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes. We got there on Friday morning, about the same time, same lot, same actual parking space. So we were doing very well. We were concerned that as the week got on, it would get busier and busier, and we would lose out on that great parking, which is, certainly a possibility as the con gets busier and busier. But we did okay Friday. Friday was a lot of fun. We tried again. We hit as many booths as we could. We hung out at the Marriott for a while and saw a lot of celebrities walking in and out. The biggest being George R.R. Martin, the guy who writes Game of Thrones, walked right by us. Crazy. You see so many weird celebrities like George R.R. Martin. Like, people know what he looks like, but like we saw the guy from Impractical Jokers, which is a comedy show on Spike, or it's on True TV, I think. And just walking around, and I would just point him out. One time I turned to my wife. We were walking down the street, and I said, "That's Felicia Day walking right next to us." And she was like, "What?" I said, "It's Felicia Day." She goes, "No, it's not." I said, "It is. You doubt me? I know celebrities." And Rachel went up and couldn't believe it was her and tried to get her to stop for a photo. But, she had somewhere to go. And then Rachel pulled the mom card and said, "Well, my kids are big fans. But, kids, I tried. And what's a woman supposed to do?" So she stopped. She posed for a nice picture. The kids were excited. It's Penny from Dr. Horrible. And that was cool. It was a fun memory, Kids hung out, got to see who they wanted. We saw both Holly and Jessica and Yaya Han from Heroes of Cosplay. It's not a show that I watch, but my kids and wife watch. It's not my thing. Not my thing. The cosplay thing it's pleasing to the eye. I like looking at the women dressed in their costumes, but I don't get how it's a profession. I don't know how you make money off that. Well, I guess I sort of do, because Yaya Han's calendar that Rachel bought was $30. $30 for a signed calendar. I know that stuff's specialty. As a guy who has to make his own 6-key merchandise, I know all that stuff's very expensive. But wow, $30 for a calendar and a signature is awfully expensive. But what are you gonna do? The chick Farrah from Teen Mom was charging $20 to sign a magazine. You see everybody at Comic-Con. We saw Lou Ferrigno again. You always see the Hulk there. We saw a lot of players from the episode 4 of Fans Hope Comic-Con movie by Morgan Spurlock. A lot of people there, they go to the con, so they're in the movie and they go and you recognize them. Just see celebrities walking everywhere. It's a lot of fun. And even more than that, it's just the costumes are amazing. So we discovered that there's a Hilton right there next to the gas lamp, that was selling hamburgers and hot dogs and at a reasonable price. So we had lunch there a couple of times. It was nice, and watched the guys on the Assassin's Creed obstacle course, which was fun. Saturday was crazy when we got there. Was on Friday or Saturday? You see, you have to understand, folks, I am very loopy. We have had 4 long days, and I've spent the last day and a half just trying to sift through the mountain of stuff that we've accumulated from Comic-Con. Not the least of which is the Comic-Con souvenir book, which they give to every attendee, and they always solicit people to write or draw something based on what they're celebrating for the year. And this year they they were celebrating, among other things, the 75th anniversary of Batman. So I wrote a little Batman piece about what Batman means to me, and it was mainly about the Michael Keaton, Tim Burton movie from 1989 and how excited we were back then to go see it. And it got printed, so that was very cool. I've had 3 or 4 articles printed in there, but of all that I've written, Batman is probably the one I'm most proud of because it's the one that's the most, it hits home. So I'll try to put up a scan on the 91 Reasons Facebook page if you'd like to read it. Give me a couple days to figure that out and recover so I can do that. So that was a lot of fun. And on Friday, I even took a short time. I had a really nice friend named Nick hook me up with a table right in the autograph area. So I sat there. I actually signed copies of the souvenir book for people, talked about the 6 key book series, and handed out flyers, and even handed out some flyers for 91 Reasons, hoping to get some new listeners since we're so since I'm so new to this, and the podcast is so brand new, with only this being what will eventually become the 4th episode. But Friday was great. We had a great time. We ended up Friday night in the streets of San Diego right there. They had blocked the streets off, and there were people everywhere. There were a whole group of women dressed as witches for the show Witches of East End, and there's a guy running around in a giant dragon costume. There were a million Harley Quinns and a million Iron Man and Thor costumes, Batman, you name it. Everybody walking around. And we had a good friend who works for one of the big movie companies, and he actually gave us a hotel room for the night. So Friday night we stayed over at Hotel Circle. I don't know if you've ever been to Hotel Circle in San Diego, but whoever designed this is crazy. Now see, the thing with San Diego is they're so proud of the gas lamp and its homey, artsy feel that the hotel rooms are so limited there, and the restaurants are limited. So if to get a decent room, now we've never got one, but the only way to get one is in Hotel Circle, which is a good 7, 8, 9 miles from the convention center. It's a whole row. Imagine if you live in California, you know Harbor Boulevard where Disneyland is, and how all those crappy motels pop up across the street. Imagine that, but no Disneyland. Just the crappy motels, like 10,000 apartments all in a row, and that's what it is. It's kind of seedy, it's kind of scary. We were happy to have the room. I'm not complaining about the room. I'm just complaining about the way San Diego treats people who come to visit. Between hotel rooms and not having any fast food restaurants where you can feed something to your kids, it makes part of the journey very complicated. I got 3 kids with 3 different tastes who don't all eat the same thing. They're very plain. If you've got kids, they like plain things. They don't like a lot of sauce. So getting anything for them to eat is a hassle. It's a big pain in the rear end. We even ate one night at Hooters down there simply because they had chicken strips. And most of the restaurants don't have chicken strips for kids. I'm not complaining. All the girls were dressed as superheroes, or at least scantily clad versions of superheroes, so that was quite nice. We were waited on by Wonder Woman, and I saw Batgirl and Snow White walking around. It was pretty funny. But it's not cheap. Fast food, you can get out paying $15, $16, and every restaurant, no matter how frugal you are, is going to hit the $50 mark, because that's just the gas lamp quota, man. The gas lamp sucks when it comes to food. It really, really sucks. But we stayed over Friday night, got more sleep than we'd had the 2 previous nights, which was very nice, and woke up Saturday morning refreshed. Didn't have to do the 2-hour drive. Had good parking on Saturday because we had parking down at the hotel that's to the left. I think it's another Hilton. I think they're all Hiltons, right? We parked there, which was nice because it was right across the street from the Simpsons exhibit. So we waited in line for that, and that took about an hour. But they loaded you up on swag. They gave you a tote bag, water bottle, Slim Jim, silver emergency blanket, protein bar, whole bunch of stuff. The idea being that they're debuting the Simpsons marathon, where they're going to show all the episodes in a row. So you're going to need all this stuff because you're not going to want to leave the television. But the highlight was a giant replica of Homer's head. They took about 15 people in at a time, and you could sit, but we actually laid on the floor and looked up, and they projected scenes from the episodes on Homer's brain. So it was very clever. It was fun, a little exhibit. It was kept very air conditioned inside, which we were not complaining about. And they even pumped in the smell of donuts from somewhere. So kudos to Fox, because it was a really fun exhibit. They also had free blue cotton candy for Marge's hair, and you could get in line to play a game and win a donut pillow or something. But those lines were all 45 to an hour, and after already being in a line for an hour, we weren't going to wait another hour. So we ended up back on the floor. We tried to do the convention floor from one end to the next, and it was just impossible. Saturday, we got halfway. We got from G to probably about the end of D or the beginning of C, and simply ran out of steam. You know, we were exhausted because trying to walk through the convention center and see the things you want is a challenge. There's, again, so many people. There's not only the crush of humanity, but there's a lot of people in inappropriate costumes that are too bulky, too big, and they turn and hit you with a sword. Or there's a lot of people with giant backpacks on, so they take up the space of two people, and you just can't get around. You just can't get anywhere. But Saturday was great. We had a blast. We ended up again with so much free stuff. My kids were excited because up on the sale, they were having an autograph session for the Welcome to Night Vale podcast. So they were able to meet everyone who works on Night Vale and get their autograph on a poster, and they were jumping up and down. They were so excited. It was fun to see. You know, I don't listen to Night Vale. I don't exactly know what it is. I kind of get the gist of it, but I wasn't. You know, I don't know them, so I wasn't really ecstatic to meet them. Next door, Anne Rice was signing. Her line was at least 2 hours long, which was nice to see, because we saw Anne Rice last year and there was no line. So it was nice that she's announced the new Vampire Lestat novel, and you know, Anne Rice is back. For the woman who created the modern day vampire lore, it's nice to see her back in the forefront. And up there we saw the usuals. You know, Aaron Gray was there, Boomer from Battlestar Galactica. We saw Veronica from Clerks. Just everybody that's normally signing autographs. That's a lot of fun. We went by one time and Jay Muse had a line that must have been over an hour, which is crazy to me because Jay Muse signs all the time. You can meet Jay Muse at the grocery store sometimes. So I wouldn't wait in a giant line for him. We were at the Marriott hanging out and saw Kevin Smith and his wife Jennifer getting on a go-kart and being raced to the panel. Not sure if that was Friday or Saturday. It all kind of bleeds together, you know. We saw Guillermo del Toro. He was leading a signing for all the people who were on the strain. And then really funny, my wife's into Sharknado, and the Sharknado people were great. They didn't have a booth, but they did have a lot of energy, and they would run through the streets and hand out giant foam chainsaws and stuff. But she ended up winning a meet and greet with Tara Reid and Ian Ziering. So we went to the back end of the gas lamp, to the Double Deuce Saloon or whatever it's called, and got in line. They checked our ticket, and we were good. And it was great because they gave 3 or 4 drink tickets, so you could get whatever you wanted at the bar. They had all-you-could-eat sushi, all-you-could-eat barbecue sandwiches, and sodas. Like, it was real nice spread. And we got in line. We ended up being called up like 3 or 4 at a time to meet Tara Reid and Ian Ziering, and that was fun. I mean, Sharknado to me is crazy, but it was nice to meet more celebrities, you know. Nothing wrong with that. and they signed our stuff, and Rachel had a great time, which was cool. But I mean, it was crazy. Sharknado, and then they gave us a giant bag of Sharknado stuff. Rachel has an instant collection. There was a shark costume you put on your head that says Sharknado and makes it look like you've been eaten by a shark, and there was a megaphone and a pop vinyl and a t-shirt, a button. I mean, it was just a whole bunch of stuff. So that was really nice, and it was all free, you know. There was no complaints at all from me. Free's the greatest at Comic-Con, you know. And Saturday, we had to drive back, unfortunately, but we had a great time, you know. There were a lot of costume people there. The highlight of Saturday for me was I've been watching this guy on YouTube for a while. His name is Greg Benson. He hosts a channel on YouTube, Mediocre Films, and he basically just goes out and does pranks, and they're really mild and good-natured things. So there's nothing too I mean, it's not Jackass. It's not like that. But it's just kind of fun and surreal. It's the kind of humor I really like, and Greg just seemed like a really nice guy. And he plays a character sometimes, Yeshman Blecken, who wears an old sweater and little glasses and has black hair. So I put a Yeshman Blecken costume together and tweeted a picture to him, and he was like, "Oh, we have got to hook up at Comic-Con." Now, Comic-Con's a big place, so even when somebody says, "Hey, if I'm here, why don't you come meet me?" a lot of times you just can't get there. And that was my problem with Greg on Thursday and Friday, that he was tweeting me where he was, and I was a million miles away, or I was in a line. One time he tweeted and I was in the line to go through the Pixels movie arcade. It's this movie coming out next summer with Adam Sandler about video games, attacking the world. And they let you play video games and gave you some glasses. It was a lot of fun, and I was like, I can't leave this line. I've already devoted too much time to it. But finally, on Saturday, as I was taking the Night Vale posters back to the car so they didn't get damaged, which is another whole thing. I mean, they give out posters at Comic-Con, and even if you have a poster tube, the odds of getting that poster home unscathed are nearly impossible. So that's why posters are so expensive on eBay, because they're so difficult to get home. But I took them to the car because we were parked pretty close, you know, not next door, but pretty close. And along the way, I got a tweet saying he was having lunch at the Omni. And so I said, "Hey, we're going. This is my last shot. He's probably not going to be here on Sunday," because at that point I figured nobody was here on Sunday. But I texted Rachel. I was like, "You got change of plans. Head to the Omni." So I put on my Yeshman Blecken costume and had my chef microphone just like he has, and we went over to the Omni and finally tracked him down on the second floor there. And I went up to him and did the thing, and you know, "This is Yeshman Blecken. Are you having your lunch? Enjoy it." He couldn't believe it. He was having so much fun. He did a little video blog with me where he said, "I'm eating lunch and this happens." And there I am. And it was funny because we watch Greg while we eat dinner. We've watched nearly all of his videos. And my daughter loves him. She's 8. She thinks he's the great. Out of all the celebrities we met, she was most excited to get her picture taken with Greg Benson. So that was a lot of fun, hanging out with him. And I've got to introduce myself. And it's funny because I wouldn't wait in line for a celebrity, but I would hoof it through the area to a restaurant, for like just a hangout thing. And that's what it was. We let him finish his lunch and we took off. But it was a good time, and I got to finally put Yeshman and Yeshman together. So that was cool. If you want to look up his videos on YouTube, just type in Mediocre Films and they'll come out, and Mediocre Films 2. His stuff's great. He does a lot of prank videos. He even did a really nice one where he pranked, I'm doing air quotes, some homeless people and brought them into what looked like a 5-star restaurant and gave them the best meal of the week that they had. I mean, it was really cool. So that was a good time. And Saturday was just breakneck, man. We finally checked out, got home about midnight. Get to bed, man, so that we can do it all over again, right? And Sunday arrives, we get there, and again, we were really shocked at how busy it was. it's startling. But we still managed to have a good time, and I was able to finally track down the one freebie I'd been looking for the whole con. They're coming out with a Back to the Future almanac, which is about all the props and all of the timelines, and I'm really excited to get it. You know, it's hard to get new Back to the Future anything besides those pop vinyls, which I'm not a fan of. But they had a set of trading cards that you could put together, 10 or so cards, 10 or 15 cards, and I guess the idea was that they would be really hard to get. And by Sunday, I figured if I even got one or two, I'd be cool. We ended up finding the EFX booth, which, you know, all of Comic-Con is separated into aisles, except the Star Wars booth. The Star Wars booth takes up its own rectangle, and then within the Star Wars booth, there are smaller booths. So it's a con within a con, all about Star Wars. So finding the EFX booth, or the FX booth, was very difficult because it was sandwiched in the middle of, you know, Hallmark Star Wars and Headphone Star Wars and the company that makes Jack Pacific that makes giant Star Wars figures. So when I tracked them down, they're weird because they had a few Star Wars things, but they had Guardians of the Galaxy props, they had Battlestar Galactica, Iron Man, that kind of stuff. But finally, I got a guy to talk to me, and I told him what I was looking for, and he gave me such a look. Like, the look was, dude, you're the only person who's even bothered to ask for these. So instead of a couple of cards, he gave me and the two boys a full set. So I ended up with 3 sets of these cards. That's a Comic-Con win. I mean, that's the only thing I really wanted from the con, and it was free, so that was pretty cool. Would have liked to have bought the book, but I couldn't find it. I don't know if it's available or not. I got conflicting things that it was available and then that it wasn't. So I'll have to do some Amazon searching and see what I can come up with, right? But we had a good time on Sunday. Josie met Glenn Hetrick, the lead judge from Face Off, and that's one of her favorite shows, so that's fun. It's the second time we've met him, and he's always so nice. And I invited him to come to Not Scary Farm. I said, you got to come. You're a makeup. We'll walk you through. You're a makeup genius. We'll walk you through the makeup area, and you can check it out. And he seemed cool about that, you know, and that might be fun. See what else we did. Sunday we cut short because we just couldn't take the crowds, and by about 3 o'clock or so, we were done. And for us to leave con early is really crazy. We normally close it out, and then we go over to the Marriott and hang out for 2 or 3 hours watching celebrities check out with their luggage. Con kicked our butt this year. Between the heat and the crowds, we had enough. Enough, right? But everybody got what they wanted. Rachel got her Yaya Han calendar. Josie got a giant stuffed My Little Pony. My boys got Homestuck stuff. If you know what Homestuck is, they're very obsessed with it, and stuff's very hard to find because not a lot of companies make it. I got my cards. We got the Alien figures. It was great. We had a good time. Looking forward to con next year. I'll be curious to see how the ticketing thing goes and if they work out any of the bugs. The only negative thing I can say about con, other than the heat and the crowds, which you just learn to deal with them. You know, you can't fight them. If it's too hot, you go inside. If there's too many crowds, you move somewhere else. But there's a thing that's popped up at all the cons lately, and that's the religious guys, the religious people that have the signs that tell you you're going to hell. I understand freedom of speech, and I support their right to be there. But I wonder if they understand how unwanted they are. It's funny because they were there all 4 days. I'm sure they were there the preview night too. And they always start off light. They just stand there with their signs. They have their big yellow signs that tell you what God thinks of you and what's going to happen to you. And then as the days progress, they get more aggressive. They start with having the passing out the get out of hell free cards, even to kids. They handed one to my son, a get out of hell free card. He's 14. Then it escalates to they've got megaphones and amplifiers, and now they're shouting the Lord's word all through the con area. Again, that's their freedom of speech. I get it. I just ignore it. It's not my thing. Along the way, the conventioners, they amp up too, and it goes from a guy dressed as Bane standing next to them to finally on Sunday, they were people with Hail Hydra signs. There were lesbian couples making out in front of the religious people. There was a whole crew worshiping Barbra Streisand, and they had a giant cutout of her head, and it said "All Hail Babs." Like, it goes crazy, and it's a wonder there aren't skirmishes. And I can keep my cool through all that stuff. It doesn't really bother me, but I did take umbrage with one of the protesters, and there were abortion protesters down there. One woman had a sign that said, "The body within your body is not your body." That's the way she feels. That's fine. I have no problem with that. That's her freedom of speech. But then right across the way was a woman with a giant poster, and it must have been nearly 5 feet tall and nearly 4 feet across, and it was just a fetus, an aborted fetus with a little face on it. And I just looked at her and I said, "What's wrong with you?" I said, "You know, there are children here, and I understand that you feel you need to be here, but maybe a family event is not where you should be." And she didn't have much to say. They never do. But the guy next to her holding the Jesus sign started screaming at me that I was full of hate. And I looked at him and I said, "Sir, one of us is holding a sign saying we're going to hell, and the other one of us has got his kids going to see Iron Man. So I'm not sure exactly how you define hate. But I don't have any hate in my heart, except for the choices you've made to be here and harass us while we're trying to take our kids in. You know, as an adult, I can argue one-on-one with you all the points of whatever issue you feel you need to argue about. But putting a graphic picture up so that my 8-year-old daughter has to walk by it, then you've got my attention, and then we're going to have words." I know a lot of people say, just ignore them. Sometimes you have to speak up. As loud as they're speaking up, you have to speak up and do the counterpoint. And I'm sorry this is sort of spiraling into something different at the end here. But this is going to continue. And next year we may see these abortion people with their sick posters on day one. And we'll have to put up with them for 4 or 5 days in a row. And I simply won't do that. And the funny part was that, and there's funny to it, as we're talking, it started to rain. It started to rain. And I looked at her and I said, "I hope your poster gets ruined, because that's what you deserve." It was crazy. Comic-Con is a celebration of all things pop culture: movies, TV, animation, comic books, podcasts, toys, everything fun. It'd be nice if we could just keep it that way, you know? Keep your politics out of it. Move further back, you know? Don't be so aggressive. That's all I would say. Don't be so aggressive. Get your message across in a positive way that makes you look good, not like a chump, you know? Not like a chump. I didn't get into any panels while we were there. We simply didn't have time. But I did watch online the Simpsons panel, and I think Homer Simpson said it best. They had a full Pepper's ghost of Homer on the stage. It was beautiful looking. And Homer said, "Welcome to Comic-Con. It's so great that it finally moved to San Diego." And, excuse me. "It's so great that it's finally moved to Las Vegas." And Matt Groening said, No, Homer, it's still in San Diego." And he said, "Oh, they must have built 10,000 more hotel rooms and at least one decent restaurant." I had to pause it. I was laughing so hard because that's how we all feel about it. Comic-Con has outgrown San Diego. They don't have enough hotel rooms. They don't have enough restaurants. They don't have enough infrastructure to maintain that kind of crowd. Las Vegas does. Man, if it was in Vegas, could you imagine how great it would be? I would drive the extra to get the hotel room. You know, the cheap hotel room. The plentiful food locations. That would be fantastic. I'd be all about it. Any day. let the contract run out, and move that sucker to Las Vegas, and everybody will follow, and it'll be fine. We'll get over San Diego in a year or two. We won't even remember it, except badly. And the other thing about the Las Vegas Convention Center is that you can virtually go from hotel to hotel and never walk outside. So those protesters would never have the opportunity to harass my children, and that would be a big bonus, a big plus for doing that. Yeah. So, special notices to the people of Entertainment Weekly at Comic-Con 2014 who felt the need to hand me a copy of Entertainment Weekly about every 10 feet. I came home with, I'm not kidding, about 45 issues of Entertainment Weekly. It'd be great if they were sequential, but it's all the same issue. So, it doesn't do me any good once I've read it. And it's not even a full issue. So, I have plenty of those. I'll be donating those somewhere. But, Comic-Con was great. It always is great. There's a lot of build-up to it. And then when you're in the thick of it, you're battling the forces of comic bookdom and braving it and meeting all the spokesmodels and taking the pictures of the cosplayers and meeting your favorite artists, your favorite actors. It's fantastic. If you've never been, if you're listening to this podcast somewhere in the boonies, you know what? Whatever it takes, if you're a fan, and if you're listening to this, you are, of pop culture, find a way to go. Get down there at least one time. Do it for yourself. You will have the greatest time ever. You will make friends that will last not only that weekend, but forever. So I heartily recommend it. Okay, we're going to wrap up. It's a shorter episode this week because it was of a smaller topic. I'll be back next week with a much fuller show about a single topic that spans a lot longer, so we can talk longer and we can spend more time together, because I know that's what you love, listening to me. This is Jeff Tucker, the host, the voice of 91 Reasons. The best way to support the podcast is go on iTunes and leave us a review. I just got a review from a friend, Andy Sims, who used to host the Hollywood Saloon, what I consider the finest podcast ever. He gave me a 5-star rating and a fantastic review. That's fantastic. I love it. Forbidden Disco also led 5 stars review. That's great. If you go on iTunes, leave me a great review. I would really appreciate it. While it's in its infancy, I hope to give a shout out to anybody who leaves us a great review, because that's our way of saying thanks. You can also find my book series, The Sixth Key, on Amazon.com in both paperback and Kindle version. The Kindle versions are only 99 cents. What a deal! The Sixth Key, The Lost Station, and The Infinite Backward. And coming next year, book 4, The Ice Temple. And one day, I just know it, there will be a giant Comic-Con display of Engine 17, and they'll be handing out keys to all the attendees. And we'll have a panel, and we'll debut footage, and people will go crazy because they'll want to see the Sixth Key movie. I just know it's going to happen. Whatever you believe so vividly must come to pass, right? Right. All right, 91 Reasons. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next episode.
Thanks for listening to 91 Reasons. Please subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. Find us on Facebook. Is anyone even still listening?